This is how you go from fresh spawn to fully geared in your first few hours without wasting your time. This guide covers how to get to max gear and crafting in the starting zone of Ember Vale, which sets you up for the second zone of the Howling Sands in the next video. Now before you do anything else, make sure that after you spawn in that you head through the double doors into the randomly generated world and then open your map by pressing M. Now you'll always start out in the Emerald Grove biome, which is the first starting zone. However, you'll also see some other different colored biomes nearby, which all have different resources that we're going to need later. Specifically, the blue tree biome is where you're going to get iron early on. So ideally, we want to put our first base between multiple different biomes so we can easily collect everything nearby. But if you're not seeing a lot of diversity in your starting location, you can just start a new world and then recheck the map until you're happy. But don't worry too much because we can connect everything together with teleporters later. But that'll be in the next episode, so make sure you subscribe for that. So the first thing we need to do is find some bushes which you can hit to gather sticks and plant fiber. You can also find stone rubble around on the floor or especially near rivers, which you can also pick up. Next, if you press tab to open your inventory, you'll now be able to craft your starting equipment: a pickaxe, a hatchet, and a sword. Then you can put the items on your hotkey slots at the bottom so you can easily swap between them using the number keys. And just so you know, you can harvest multiple bushes and even crops much faster with your sword compared to punching them with your fists. But now we have the hatchet. You can instantly cut down any tree in Hytale by cutting the base first, which will then cause all of the blocks it's supporting above to fall to the ground. And it's worth finding and cutting down some larger trees to instantly get hundreds of wood for just a few seconds of work. Now you will need to run around the area where the trees fell to gather all of the sticks, plant fiber, logs, and tree sap, which we'll need to craft torches from our inventory. Now Hytale doesn't tell you that you can actually dual wield a torch in one hand and your tools in another hand. To do this, you need to open your inventory and drag the torch into your character's quick slot. You can then just press Z to swap between your torch and shield. And doing this means you can actually see while mining or fighting in caves without having to place hundreds of torches everywhere as you explore. Next, we need to go ahead and pick up some piles of rubble, or using your pickaxe, you can mine your own spawn point, which is made of stone, for cobblestone blocks. Or you can just dig through the dirt below you and start mining some stone there. With these materials, we can then craft a workbench from our inventory. Don't bother building a base yet. Now the workbench is going to give you access to a wider crafting menu. You can actually swap between the tabs at the top here to find new crafting benches, which we'll talk about later. There's more tools, traps, and even more weapons that you can experiment with because they all have different unique attacks and play styles. And later on, the workbench can be upgraded just here on the right with these required materials to unlock access to better gear and equipment. But for now, I'm going to craft a bow, and then we need some arrows. Next, we need to open up the map, and you're going to see this icon near the spawn called the Forgotten Temple Gateway with a ruined man-made structure. This location will always spawn nearby your spawn point as soon as you start the game, and it will always be visible on your map. Make your way over to this location next. It's also marked on your HUD at the top, so you can't get lost, just walk towards it. On your way over, you're going to find various animals that you can kill for meat and hide. You will want to leave the smaller baby animals alive, you monster. We can enslave them later for inhumane battery farming. You'll also come across berries which you can eat to regain your health, and there's also wheat and other plants which we'll be able to farm later on, so feel free to pick them up as you go. As for the meat you get from animals, you will need to cook it with a campfire before you can eat it. That will regain your health and boost your stamina recovery rate. But now we've made it to the Forgotten Temple here on the map, and you can use the hide you found earlier to make yourself a bed and then place it outside outside the temple. If you then click on it, you can activate it as a spawn point, and it also allows you to sleep through the night like in Minecraft. Next, if you go inside the ancient temple gateway, you'll find a tree guardian down the stairs here. Now you don't actually need to kill him. You can either just run around him to the portal, or if you like, you can fight him with a bow from range. If he can't get to you, he will reset and regain his health though. But don't worry, it's a pretty easy fight. With a sword, you can literally just walk back while charging your sword lunge attack, and he won't even be able to hit you. Also, make sure that in the settings you turn on health bars so they pop up when you're fighting the enemy and you can actually see how close you are to killing them. It's in the menu settings. He's really not a very hard fight, and once he's defeated, you can safely loot the 2 treasure chests nearby. You can also use the loot all option on the top right here, which is great if you're in a dangerous dungeon later on. Now we can go through the portal into the Forgotten Temple to activate our memories. Now there's a lot of other things you can do in this area, but most of it is not released yet in early access. So we're going to head straight down the steps to the altar and activate our memories here. And now whenever you see a new creature in Hytale, the game will tell you that it's been added to your memories. And then you'll need to come all the way back here to this altar and press record memories at the bottom. And there's actually milestones for how many memories you collect. And later on, this is how you increase your max amount of teleporters. So unlocking this quest early is going to save you a lot of time later, because there's currently 240 memories to collect, and you can only hold 42 at once. So make sure you come back and record them each time. You can also find a few traders here, which we don't need yet. So now we need to leave and set up our starter base near some iron and copper. And you might be tempted to rebuild one of the incredible pre-existing castles, forts, or ruins after you clear out the enemies there, but currently enemies will continue to respawn at those areas. So unless you want a nasty surprise in the morning, I recommend you instead build your base away from any enemy spawn locations. Before you build your first base in Hytale, to find the best location, firstly make sure it's near the blue forest biome, where you can find lots and lots of iron, wood, and water. Secondly, if it's near a green forest, that's going to be another great source of wood. And finally, you'll be visiting the desert region next, so bear that in mind when it comes to picking the best location. So I put my base here, and as you can see, I've already built it. Let me know if you guys want a tutorial, and I will link one in the description below that shows you how to build this setup block by block. And it is actually possible to have no base at all in this game and just make crafting benches. In fact, your workbenches will actually use the materials stored in nearby chests. So I put my chests in the floor and then built the workbenches around them so they always have access. Secondly, you can just place 2 chests next to one another to create a larger chest storage. Next though, we need to craft a few furnaces at the workbench using some stone and wood. I've already put mine over here on the right, and obviously we can process ore a lot faster with multiple furnaces. But next we're going to need to get some ore to actually process. Now before you head into the mine in Hytale, you're going to want to craft 2 pickaxes in case one of them breaks. You can still mine with a broken pickaxe, but it's a lot slower. Then we're going to craft 50 ladders at the builder's workbench using some wood. And using these ladders, you'll be able to mine either directly downwards or directly upwards and get access to some of the ores located on the ceiling. We're also going to want at least 50 torches so we can light our way, along with some food. Now we need to mine some copper. Now you can find copper in any cave within the starting region of Ember Vale. You're going to find a lot of natural caves in this area that just kind of beginners holes in the ground, so just go inside them. And I personally like to light my way using torches so I can see where I've already been. And this makes it easier to find your way out again. And also, if you have a torch in your hand, the ores are actually going to reflect some of the torchlight, which makes them easier to spot. So go ahead and mine all of the copper that you find. You're going to need at least 50 copper ore to craft the next set of workbenches, tools, weapons, and armor. And as you go through the shallow caves just under the surface, you'll then reach a deeper level where you'll find copper to be quite plentiful. Don't bother going down into the lava level yet. The enemies there are just going to kill you. And while you can find some iron there, there's actually a much faster place to farm iron, which I'll show you in a moment. But now you have your copper, we can can put it into the furnace with some wood, and then it will start smelting copper ingots. Now obviously it takes some time to smelt the ore, so I've built 3 furnaces which are running at once. But now with our copper ingots, we can go to the workbench and we can craft a armorer's workbench and a blacksmith's anvil. We can also upgrade our tools here with a copper pickaxe and hatchet. Now you will need 31 copper ingots to craft a full set of copper armor, which will then provide your character 18% damage reduction. By comparison, iron armor only gives you 25% damage reduction, and it's harder to craft. So I would recommend just getting a full set of copper armor. And then at the weapons workbench, you can craft a copper weapon of your choice. But what is the best weapon in Hytale? Most people don't appreciate the true power of the daggers in Hytale. The normal power attacks can be used to travel around much faster compared to running. But then if you hold down jump after the power attack, you can launch yourself even further. If you also eat food with stamina boost too, you'll be able to get around the map stupidly fast. Also, if you time your jump with the jump of the initial power attack, you can jump twice as far, and this can also be used to jump up entire cliffs like this. It's really all about getting the timing just right. So the daggers are amazing if you're not using them for combat, but it takes practice. And in combat, the lunge attack actually bounces off enemies after hitting them, which means they can't strike you back. The daggers are also the fastest attacking weapon in the game, and you can even block with them. Next, we have the two-handed heavy-hitting mace, which requires good timing because its attacks are chargeable and knock enemies back. The main advantage of this is that you can stop enemies from ever attacking you because you just knock them away from you over and over again, which interrupts them. It can also hit multiple enemies at once, so it's good for crowd control. But you do need to time it well because the attacks have a slow wind-up, which can leave you open to taking damage. Once charged though, you can use the leaping ground pound attack, which will deal a lot of damage in a small area. Now swords are very easy to use and basic, but I love them because there's not an enemy in the game you can't kill with a sword. It just works well for every situation, and you can also use them with a torch or a shield, which can then be used to bash foes back, and that also interrupts their attacks. The power attack on the sword hits multiple enemies as you lunge through them, so overall it's just a fantastic weapon. So now you're geared up and you're ready to start farming the materials you need for iron. And that's going to allow us to get the best gear in the starting region before we move on to the Howling Sands Desert, which is going to be next episode. So make sure you subscribe for that if you haven't already, and leave a like on the video if it's been helpful so far. The best place to farm iron in the starting region of Hytale is to open up the map and look for a blue forest biome. The larger the region is, the better. Now, iron has a higher chance to spawn in this region, so once you arrive, you're going to find a natural cave, and they can sometimes be located underwater here. And then once you work your way inside, you'll discover iron ore even at the surface level of these cave systems. Just make sure that you check the map now and again to ensure that you're still under the blue forest biome, because there's a higher concentration of iron here. However, to craft iron gear, we will also need light leather and linen. Firstly, to get the light leather, we need to find light hide. And while you can find light hide from small defenseless animals like sheep, cows, deers, warthogs, and rabbits, which you'll find across the Ember Vale plains, the best way to farm light hides is from the rats in cave. If you run through a dark cave until you come across some rats, you can kill them and then you can just backtrack and the game will actually spawn the rats back into the area you've already cleared. But if you are wondering how to get medium and heavy hide, well, the larger creatures like bears and yaks drop that heavy hide, while the wolves are going to drop medium hide. And then when you've got all that hide, you're going to want to turn it into leather. So you're going to need to go to the workbench and craft a tanning rack. Then you can just dump all your hide inside and it will start producing leather. The next thing we need to craft iron armor is linen. You can get linen scraps from killing skeletons that spawn at night, but they also stick around during the day. Most of the time though, they are carrying torches at nighttime, which makes them very easy to spot. You can also find some abandoned ruins and undead forts, which have a high concentration of skeletons, which you also need to kill for their bone fragments as well. But if you want to farm linen quickly, I would recommend finding either a mine or a goblin cave spawn. Or you can look on the map of Ember Vale and find a Trork camp. It usually looks like a brown sort of dirt man-made structure in the middle of a green sort of landscape. Set up a rest point nearby and then go and take them out for linen scraps. Now their camps can also be farmed repeatedly since they spawn again each morning, which is also why you don't want to set up your own base here, because they'll just carry on spawning Troroks. But while you're here, you can also farm them for the Trorok armor set. It's one of the best sets you can get early on in Hytale, especially in Ember Vale, because it buffs your charged attack damage by 16%, and it gives you 25% defense and 46 more health, which is the same as iron armor. The main bonus is that it looks cool and you also get that charged attack damage, which is amazing on the dagger power attacks. You can find it in the Trorok's chests and by killing Troroks themselves at the camps or forts, especially the Trorok chieftain. He has a higher chance to drop it along with their weapons, which are all equivalent to iron gear. But now you have linen, hide, and iron ingots, so you can craft a full set of iron armor yourself. And also at the workbench, we can now craft a backpack with iron and medium leather. Then if you just use it from your inventory, you'll unlock a new bag slot on your character, which adds another 9 slots of looting capacity. You can also now craft a spade, which lets you dig 4 dirt blocks at once, making terraforming even faster. And now as your iron gear starts to break, it's actually now worth crafting a repair kit at the workbench, so you can just repair your gear on the go. I'd also recommend getting an iron crossbow. This is a rapid fire ranged weapon that outputs incredible damage per second. You do need to reload it between shots, but it works very well for outputting lots of damage very quickly. It does go through way more arrows compared to the bow, and it also deals less damage per shot because you can't charge it up. But overall, I much prefer the crossbow since you can also use it with a shield and torch in caves. But what should you do next? Well, if you check your workbench, you'll discover that the next tier of items you can craft is called Thorium, which is found in the second zone of the Howling Sands desert. And I have a guide on how to get through that zone linked below. But first, before you go, you do need to unlock the ability to craft thorium tools by upgrading the workbench with copper, iron, and linen scraps. Then you also want to upgrade the armorer's workbench so you can craft thorium armor. And to do that, you'll need copper, bone fragments, which you get from skeletons, and the azure tree logs, which you can get from cutting down trees in the blue forest biome area just here on the map. And then you also need medium leather, which you get for killing wolves. Now, the best farming method for spawning unlimited wolves and getting unlimited medium leather is to go back to the Trolloc camps, where you'll find a Trolloc shaman. He's the guy with the staff with a little red crystal on top. And what you should do is kill everyone else and leave him alive. And he's just going to carry on summoning 2 wolves at once, which you can repeatedly kill over and over. And each one of them is going to drop 2 medium leather each time. And as soon as you kill them, he just summons them again. So it's a great source of medium leather farming. And then to upgrade the blacksmith anvil to craft thorium weapons, you will need to gather iron, light leather, linen scraps, and venom sacks. And you can get the venom sacks from the darker swampy forest biome, which looks like this on the map. Now, venom sacks are dropped from the snakes that you're going to find there. But also there's spiders in the autumn tree biome as well. Though they're harder to kill, they're also going to drop venom sacks too. And now with all your workbenches upgraded, you are ready for my next guide on Zone 2, the Howling Sands Desert. That video is linked below, but I actually didn't talk about farming, crops, or livestock in this video. So if you need a guide on how to get really good food, I'll also be doing one on that and linking it below.